So thank you, thank you, Brother Fraser. That was a beautiful message. As God does things very well, it actually just flows on, as a matter of fact, very well with what I'm about to talk about today. So there is no coincidences. There is only what God does. He's absolutely in control of everything. So again, thank you. Yes, you see, when we're born again, things start to happen to us. Our world change. We change. There is a lot of things that are there. Now, in saying that, it is good for us to know what is actually happening to us. It's a good thing. There is a couple of things I always thought that us Christians should be able to be comfortable to talk about. One of them, for example, is death. It should not be an awkward subject. It should be something that we are quite comfortable talking about. But there is another one that I want to talk about, is really about our journey. And most people here are far more mature Christians than I am. Even for those who have worked for some time with the Lord, it is actually good to know, good to be able to talk about these things. Would it be only for the sake of those that you might be discipling, or people asking questions? So one of the things that happens to us is this. It sits on 4 words. It's restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish. You will actually find that sequence of word in 1 Peter 5:10. Right? So, but before I get into that, you know that I was away for about 7-8 weeks with Alma back to Switzerland to see my parents. After this sermon, maybe you wish I go back there again. So I don't know, but it was of course nice to be there and to meet everybody again. But I tell you one thing that was actually and truly nicer. It was back to be among the brethren, and it was back to be among like-minded people. It was very nice to be back to Australia, as a matter of fact. Now, why do I say that? Well, here's one of the things. He said when you're away for so long from your country, there's an odd thing that happens. It's just that your memories of the place that you are, they're kind of frozen in time. They're like kind of frozen in my childhood memories, in my teenage memories, and all of these things. And every time I just go to Switzerland, I just find it that it looks the same, but somehow, or almost the same, but it shifted. It shifted. And I can never really quite get that back. And it can be just a little bit awkward. Just a little bit strange, okay? Then, of course, you know, so somehow you no longer fit. I no longer fit. I'm kind of a foreigner in my own country, in saying that I was born here, but, you know, I grew up there. So Switzerland for me is still a memory of home. Anyway, you know, a little bit the same thing happens between the new you and the old you as you're born again. That old you, it's still there. The people that you know, that you met as friends, as you were the old you, you just don't kind of fit anymore with them. We move on, but sadly, the world stays the same. So what is happening to us? It can be awkward. You know, is it because we're Christians, because these things happen, that, I don't know, we're just weird now or something, right? So anyway, I would like to take you a little bit through the trip of being from born again to our way into glory. All right, so let's buckle up, because it's kind of interesting. There's some really good things in that. So the goal of my Switzerland visit really was my parents. That's what I wanted. I wanted to see my parents. I wanted to rekindle with them. I wanted to talk. Yeah, I haven't seen them since the sad COVID event. You know, the thing is, I was looking forward to different things as had previously happened, and I found out there are things I can't just really talk about anymore. Not that I don't want to talk about them, but it's just simply they are so, because unfortunately, if they are saved, they don't walk with the Lord as such. They believe that everything that just comes from the world, from the news, is okay. They believe, you know, all that sort of thing. And there's so much in their ways that it is almost impossible to have a conversation from the Lord's perspective, right, with the biblical view, without getting into some kind of argument or saying there, I can see in the body language or whatever, it's just, what you're talking about is it's just crazy, you know. So it makes things difficult. I met some old school friends. It was actually a wonderful. Alma was just beautiful through all of this. As a matter of fact, Alma helps me a lot when I see my parents. You know, to have somebody with you who accepts to just sit there whilst we speak in French and whatever, and can't understand what we're talking about, and you know, and still smile. So she's really practiced as that now. So if she smiles at you while you're talking, it's probably because you don't understand at all what you're on about. But anyway, the school friends, that was the same thing. We were talking about stuff, and as soon as I would try to poke a little bit to just see what they think or whatnot, whatever was coming back, I said, that's it. I'm back in the same situation. Anyway, I think you get the picture, right? I'm pretty sure that you've experienced the same sort of thing, and sometimes it's time to just go there and just push the issue because it's an opening for the gospel, yes. But other times it's just simply, hey, not today. It's just simply not the right time, okay? But anyway, it does a lot of things to you. So anyway, you know, I found out, like, I used to enjoy, I don't know, for example, my movies, you know, my sort of stuff. And you could go, I don't know, I loved Superman, I loved all that sort of stuff, you know. And now I just get into Superman, and the first thing is said, you have the father of Superman that's there or whatever, and his name is Jor-El. And I said, Jor-El, really? You know, like Joel, Yahweh is God, frankly. Yeah, you couldn't find something else. And then the next thing is that, okay, we're going to call our little Superman, we're going to call him Kal-El. Well, I'm just going like, frankly, Khalil, you know, friend of God. Oh, yeah, come on, you know. So there is a whole agenda behind. And as I used to be able to just simply get into the movie, enjoy, drool at the mouth and just go, now it's just all about that stuff kind of thing, which really, I'll let Alma know at the end of it, and she just tells me, can't you just flip and enjoy the movie? But, no, as a matter of fact, no, there is just something odd like this, no? Just one more example about this, because this tells us a little bit about the ways of the world and the way it's just trying to do. There was this thing on Netflix. I think it's still there now. It's called The Life on Our Planet or something like that, which is an 8-episode series. So I thought, okay, I'll just watch this. There is dinosaurs, there is stuff or whatever. I'm actually quite interested to see how they're going to present that. And of course, you know, it starts like this. It begins with establishing not the truth, but it begins by establishing a truth, and it starts with 200 billion years ago, blah, 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 and right there I'm lost. Okay, just straight away my mind just goes somewhere else. But anyway, that's what they do. So before I can get even in there, I hear that and my spirit screams, "In the beginning, God." All right, and I think if we don't get that, then the rest of the book actually doesn't make sense. Okay, it's just really the thing. So basically, I spent 8 episodes watching it because the CGI is actually absolutely brilliant. It's a good idea to actually know what the world thinks about those things. And really, all the way through, I just simply wish that I could throw Roman 1s at them, but which is not very patient of me. But in the end, it's quite a good. Yeah. Anyway, nothing fits anymore. That's what I'm just trying to say. It's a bit awkward. You don't fit anymore. You're a foreigner in your own country in a way. Because you're in this world and you're no longer of the world. Right? So the thing is, we're the ones who are changing. We really are. God changes us. Jesus changes us. You know, it's a little bit like, you recognize things. It's a little bit like, you know, you go through your cupboard. Yeah. I don't know if anyone have done that, but you go through your cupboard and you see the old wedding tux there, you know, and you say, whoa, I still have that thing. I wonder how that fits. Which is a bad idea. It's a very bad idea. So it's the same tux, right? But you just totally don't fit in. Somehow the guy that was there 20 years ago just doesn't fit in there anymore. And basically, why is that happening? What's going on? Well, basically, the answer actually can be done in 3 words also. That would be justification, sanctification, and glorification, right? I'm not going to go too far into it because the rest of the sermon is actually going to address that. But when we talk about those things, so we meet the Lord and we accept Jesus. We are now justified. His righteousness is imputed to us, okay? Immediately we are set apart. And that's why we don't fit anymore. We're kind of here but not here, okay, sort of thing. And then there is glorification, which is something that is just going to simply happen behind the veil later on. But what does it do to us? What does it do to our life? What's going on? How do we deal with that? Well, there is a certain apostle that actually has that 4-word explanation, which is restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish. Right? And I'll get right into that in a moment. But before that, I'd like to tell you the story of this guy named Simon. Right? Simon was just around and he was fishing, minding his own business or whatever, and there's suddenly this dude that just came about and tells him, oh, hello, Simon. Well, I'm going to name you Peter now. You're not Simon anymore. You're actually going to keep fishing, but now you will be a fisher of men. And then he started to change everything he knew about the world, about his relationship with God, about all of that stuff, right? Honestly, don't you think there were some times where Peter and a few others might have gone, they're going slightly mad? Am I going a little bit crazy here? Why am I really following this guy or trying to understand or trying to do the right thing? I mean, by him or by what they now believe? And it can be really awkward. And I think Peter, as a matter of fact, is a great demonstration of that. He was fantastic as putting his foot in his mouth and all of that stuff we know. Don't have time to go there. I know you know his story. That's actually why I love Peter, because he can get it so wrong, and yet with a heart in such the hard place. It's a wonderful thing. And that didn't stop Jesus from using him tremendously later on. Okay, tremendously. And we need to remember that. None of us here are perfect. None of us here are doing all the right thing all of the time. Now it's funny. I was having a conversation with a very good friend of mine who has really given his heart to Christ some years ago, and he's really trying to live this. He has Bible study as at home. He has different things. He had a bit of a hard time in his life recently. And it caused him to question some things about himself, or about his reactions, or about different things. And then he said to me yesterday, when we were talking about these things, he said, you know, one of the difficult things to go is that when you go to church, you actually get this idea about the people that are around you, that they're all so godly, they're all so good, they all seem to be just flowing with the Lord, you know. But that's the perception that you have, because they go through the same struggle. The person that's sitting next to you has the same challenges. Oh, they can be a little bit personalized, but we all have the same challenges that we are going to go through, okay? So that's one good thing to actually remember. And we should be all comfortable enough with each other to have somebody that we can go to and talk and open up about those things. Anyway, So basically, that kind of thing happens to anyone who gets to know Jesus, what Peter has gone through and whatnot. And you notice the thing? And I think that's what Fraser was talking about just before. I didn't say not to everyone who meets Jesus. I said to everyone who knows Jesus. This is really, really important. Peter, you know, the old Simon, he didn't say, hey, good man, I'm going to meet you at the synagogue next Sabbath, and then I'll just go back fishing on Monday. Didn't happen that way. That's not what we want to. That's not what we want to do in our walk. He encountered Jesus, and he was immediately set aside for a special purpose. He was sanctified just right there. Okay? At the moment you know Jesus, you accept him as your Saviour, you're no longer you. You're Saint you. Okay? And that doesn't mean you have halos, but I've got news for you. Your sanctification does not depend on some organization looking into your past for 300 years and coming with a completely silly idea that you have not committed a sin and therefore you should be hailed to something. Okay, so you're saint you just right away. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of your holinesses here in front of me, so you can turn to each other and say, Saint Alma, Saint Susan, Saint Paul, Saint this. Okay, because we are that. Right. Okay, now that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that we all have a sudden to walk around with, oh, I'm Saint Bernard. Actually, Saint Bernard sounds a bit different somehow, but you know, yeah, I don't want to cock my leg or anything. But, you know, so we want to be careful with that at the same time. But it is we are only a saint because at the moment we've accepted him. His righteousness is imputed to us. Okay, that's really important. To understand. It doesn't make us special in that way otherwise. But back to Peter. In 1 Peter 5:10, if you want to go there, 1 Peter 5:10, he says this. He says, and after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. Okay, obviously the subject for the day. Sorry, I'm just trying to get there. Far out. That's a time thing. I was just, yeah. Okay, so, but before I delve into that one, in 2 Peter 1:5-7, he writes this: make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue, and virtue with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with steadfastness, steadfastness with godliness, godliness with brotherly affection, and brotherly affection with love. Okay, those things are actually wonderful. They kind of do your head in, well, mine anyway, when you go, because you try to really picture what that really does, and you can delve in there for a long, long time. One thing that's for sure, right, is that unless Jesus himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you, the supplementing of 2 Peter, see, he's a clever man, you know, 1 Peter the first bit and 2 Peter is the next one. The supplementing of 2 Peter is just a futile exercise. That's all it is. You try to establish your own holiness, your own thing, you try to be a good person. I bet you that, you know, Deepak Chopra or Oprah Winfrey or whatever could have come. They wish they could have come with that, you know, supplement your faith with virtue, virtue with knowledge, or just whatever. Because that's what they do. That's what they teach us to do. They just try to make up that they're these holy, special people or whatever, and that they have the answers to everything. Well, no, they don't. Unless Jesus has himself restore, strengthen, confirm, establish you. Okay? If you don't have that, you might as well do yoga, bend yourself in a pretzel, breathe funny, and watch Dr. Phil. Okay? It's just not going to save you. Right? But anyway, Peter just gets this in those 4 words. But really, what do they mean to us? But before I delve into that, As much as I love Peter's epistles, I don't. There is a little bit in that sentence that I don't like very much. It's after you have suffered for a little while. Yeah. Yeah, I like the other bit, but I'm not too sure about that one. Again, it's not the subject for the day, the suffering, all right? But the awkwardness, all the things that you go through, they're part of that suffering. The main suffering has actually been done for us. The suffering was done on the cross, as Brother Fraser just depicted it so well before. It's been done for us. We are going to have our challenges. Sure we are. Okay? But they're going to come. And most of the time, they will be the consequences of our actions. They will be the consequences of some of our decisions. Sometimes they will come directly from God, I believe pretty rarely. Sometimes they're going to come from the bad guy, from the enemy. But all of the time, they're allowed by God. Amen. They're allowed by God, okay? And one of his promises is that he'll never get us through more than what we can handle. Again, the subject for another day. But the one thing that's for sure is just like it's the same thing as for the holiness thing. We are not to try to create our own trials and temptation and testing and just all of those things to just try to gain things from God. Okay? How would you like it if because your son wants a new bike, right? He just bangs his finger with a hammer and said, see dad, can I have my bike now? You know, kind of thing. I know it's a childish example, but, you know, we don't need to go and there is no point in walking on our knees for 100 kilometers and just whatever and go up the mountain and just whatever, you know, in those ways, or nail yourself to a cross or any of that, or any of that stuff. That is not pleasing to God. Okay? Even if it comes from a right place. And this is a sad thing. Because this can really, really come from a place where we desperately try to please God, right? And we should want that. We should want this. It's very desirable. But try to please God like you please your Father first. That's what we want at the restored time. At the moment we get that restoration, what is restored is actually our relationship with God. You know, comes are open now. Things can happen, all right. But anyway, it all goes to the, you know, pick up your cross and follow me. You know, again, He make you perfect, establish, strengthen, settle you. All right, I say it that way because that's the King James Version. And if you compare it with the restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you can see that there is actually a mix between the words that have been intertwined, you know, sort of thing. They've been replaced. It's not really a problem, because when you look at the Greek words for these, the explanations for them, they kind of overlap. Okay, so there is part of the restoring or part of the establishing that happens at the restoring point, or that kind of thing. We have to dissect. We have to dissect a lot, you know, an animal in order to see exactly the workings of it. Okay, the problem with that is that by the time you do this, the animal's dead. Okay, so the same thing happens with the words. You know, sometimes you have to dissect this. It's put in a certain way, but that's only put in that way so that we can understand the workings. But doing that kind of also kill the animal. I think you get the analogy, yes? All right. So don't get too hung up on the progression or whatever. In any case, you know, the suffering happens only on earth. That's another thing that we need to remember. It happens in the natural, and the restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish can actually be both a natural and a spiritual affair. Right? Now, when we read 1 Peter in its context, it's spiritual. It's talking about the spiritual aspect of that progression. However, all here know very well that whatever happens in the spiritual actually plays a big role in the natural, right? You know, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We know that there is things that happen on the other side. Whatever is in the natural is a reflection of what happens on the other side of the veil. Okay? Sometimes it's a mirror image, sometimes it's a bit blurry, but those things just do happen. That's why our prayers matter, because they have power behind that veil. Okay, that's why they matter. That's why we need to pray. That's why we need to be on our knees. Because that just gets right through and it just comes back and manifests itself in one way or another. Hey, look, not always the way we think, or not always exactly like we think it is. You know, like there is this guy, he was in a wheelchair and he was in Lourdes, which is a city in France where there is a big fountain, and people go there to get healed. A little bit like the same way as people would go to the pool of Siloam, okay, and just get in. Right now this man had been there and he was in his wheelchair, and he asked somebody to just throw me in the fountain. And the guy picked him up in the wheelchair and just threw him in the river. He threw him in the fountain. And when he come out, well, his prayers were answered, but he had 2 new tires, not 2 new legs. Okay, alright, so look, anyway, look, sometimes it doesn't really exactly look the way we imagine it's going to look. Okay, but we can get over this. We need to pray deeper and try to understand all of this. All of this to say that to keep in mind that the spiritual aspect is really completely the plan of God, right? At the moment you accept Him, then a plan, something starts in you that is entirely what God does. We contribute absolutely nothing to it aside from answering His call. Okay. So, both our early and our spiritual journeys begin at the same place, really. It's born again. Accept Jesus and we are restored. Okay? Now, even though the journey starts, it's just like it forks out, if you like. So you've got the spiritual journey that sort of takes an inward and upward direction, right? And then you've got the natural journey that just goes on. You're still on this planet. You're still in this earth. You're still in the world. Okay, but you're a changed person and no longer of the world, and this is where things start to get just a little bit awkward. Okay, this is where the tuxedo just like, oh man, that's just not the way it used to be. Okay, the restoration is actually not physically observable, like you grow wings or you glow in the dark or anything like that, but it actually manifests in other ways, right? And it's not the same for everyone. That's another important thing. All of a sudden we have these inwards convictions, we have these inwards things because communication is back on. We can actually get that, right? And then you somehow you'll know what it is that you have to do next, what it is that you need to get rid of in your life and other things. And I got news for you guys. It's not necessarily to stop smoking. Okay, now does God want you to stop smoking? I have absolutely no doubt He does. Okay, and it can be a really, really important thing, and that's an important thing in your life, then that's what you got to do. All right, but it can be number 10 on God's plan. I don't know on what it is for you. Eventually you will get there. It's a little bit different for everyone. We all have just different what I say? Yes, that's it. That's exactly it, yeah. Different skeleton in our cupboards, yeah. All right, so the restoration manifests more in a way of attitude. It manifests a lot more in a way of behavior. It manifests in these things. And basically they are what you would call the fruit of the Spirit, okay? But that will be a whole thing to talk about for hours. So one thing is that it can be awkward because you begin to see things differently. You have a whole new filter now, right? So that goes back to the discussion I was trying to have with my friends or just whatever. It's like, can't you guys see what I'm talking about? You know? But no, they can't. The God of this world has blinded them, yes? And that needs to be removed. Happened to us now. We can see stuff that we never see before. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger used to be my hero. I wanted to look like him. I wanted to be him, just better and bigger. I wanted to just whatever. Now I see him for what he is. And yeah, in glory it won't mount much to us. It won't mount too much, unfortunately. But that's pretty trivial, right? Because how do I see my close ones now? You know, I mean, I can live with the fact that Arnold is the way he is, but what about my brother? What about my mother or my father or my cousin or the people that I love so much? Now surely that becomes just that little bit more awkward. It really does. You know, and then there's the other things about myself. How do I deal with my stance on, I don't know, abortion? Marriage, whether it's hetero, de facto, other O's in there. Divorce. Can I still watch satanic movies? You know, I just go there and I say, oh, yeah, maybe, maybe not. Can I still vote Labour? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I mean, you go to the zoo and you can't even enjoy the monkeys anymore. They look suspiciously different because they're no longer your cousins. You know, it's a whole different thing. Okay, in short, really, your mind is renewed. All right, so now you can see stuff. Your spirit is regenerated. Right, and the difference there between the renewed and the regenerated is the renewed, you still have yours, but it is now you're able to do things. It's somehow enhanced or whatever. The spirit regenerated, it just simply means that it's a brand new one. Okay, so you gotta live with that too, because he's gonna talk to God and he's gonna talk to you, and that just gets pretty uncomfortable sometimes. Okay, so his spirit now dwells in you, and you see things you never saw before. Right, like, I became aware that God called me all my life. He was actually so good to me all my life. And I was just a downright little brat. You know, I was answering to supreme power with supreme arrogance to say, hey, I don't need you. I got biceps, you know. It's okay. That sort of things just change as well. And it just makes you appreciate how much God loves us. How much does He love us? He does not give up. He continues calling and calling and calling. It doesn't matter how arrogant I was. It doesn't matter how much of a little brat we are, or how much of a black sheep we want to be, or how far away we want to go from the flock. He's not going to stop until He gets you back. Okay, and this is a wonderful thing. Praise God for that, because otherwise I wouldn't be where I am now. Okay, so basically that's what happened at the restoration thing, right? There is other things you start seeing too. Yeah, I don't know. I know Madonna, not the one here, but you know, Madonna, she's no longer attractive. All of a sudden you just see her for an evil witch. Or oh, yeah, with these fangs I just saw on Hillary Clinton there, and Whoopi Goldberg's now not funny dude anymore. And you know, what about global warming and feminism and everything? And all those things we just have to start to become, to change them. It's really, yeah, it's like fitting new wine in an old skin, yeah? you know the thing. So we got to change things. So basically we're restored, but we're still looking all banged up. Yeah, it's not like all of a sudden ta-da, you know, that's going to happen in glory, okay? We go through that process. It never stops. Even though it's only those 4 words and that you have that process, it's going to keep on going and going and going. Every stage just keeps on going all the way through. So the car, you know, you're looking at the body of the car looks all banged up. You don't necessarily look the best, but you've got new brakes, you've got new tires, you've got a new steering system, and the best onboard computer you'll ever have, because the software is totally different. Okay, so that's where you are. You're a taxi for the gospel. Remember that? You're a taxi for the gospel. Okay, so there comes another thing. There comes the confirmed. So we know what restore looks like. So at the confirmed stage there, you're aware of that new inward state because of all the things that I just said before. There are things that are in there. And there is something in you that screams that you want the rest of the world to know. You want the rest of the world to go through this as well, because it's beautiful what's happening to you. All right, and you might express it through water baptism. You know, you just gotta let the world know somehow. The Holy Spirit is now guiding you on your path. Your eyes are open. Your ears can finally hear. They can hear the truth. You got to start dealing with the way that there isn't a truth. There is the truth. All of a sudden we've moved from that postmodernist stuff to just, wow, there is only the truth. Okay? The Bible starts to make sense. You got those encounters in there, it's absolutely beautiful. Okay? Some of you possibly already know the story, but when I first gave my life to Christ, I refused to read the Bible because to me that was just something that men wrote that or whatever. I still had a lot to learn. Okay, just the saying that I had an issue with Jesus because he's human, therefore no. Right? I just want to hear from the man and so on. I know better now. All right, but basically I tried to read the Bible and it was just like, it was flat. You know, and people got these things out of it, and I'd actually go to church and go to groups or whatever, and it says, the Bible spoke to me, and I really got actually a bit annoyed with that, and I said to the Lord, I said, look, I'm going to open, because I was still a bit arrogant. I said, look, I'm getting tired of that stuff. All these people, they read the Bible and they get something. How come you don't speak to me in there? Okay, well, obviously he was, but I mean, that was just me somehow. And I was so if you don't speak, I'm going to open the Bible, and if you don't speak to me, then that's it. I'm done with it. I'm done with the Bible. All right. So I opened the Bible. I just go open on Isaiah 43. You know, I've called you. You know, all of these things. I love you. You know. And I just go, oh my goodness. It spoke to me. It was just like, for the first time, I opened a 3D book, and I just, you cross your eyes enough and whatever, and it comes out at you. I said, this is wonderful. I can see all that stuff now. All right. So that was absolutely great. So in my excitement, I just ran to the kitchen where Alma was. I said, it spoke to me, like whatever. She said, calm down, honey. What are you talking about? I said, look, the Bible, it spoke to me. Right? So I went, she said, just show me. Right? So I went there, and in my excitement, well, I closed the Bible. Right? So and given the fact that I was not very familiar with it, I had no idea what I had written. So I went like, okay, well, there's only about 1,500 pages. That shouldn't be hard. So I opened the Bible again, and lo and behold, Isaiah 43. It was exactly where it was, So I was very excited again and totally stupid. So I read it to her, and I closed the Bible again. And I still didn't know what I'd read. But it opened the third time on the right thing. So amazing stuff. Anyway, he doesn't cease. So that was a prayer answered. Okay, that was a funny thing. But anyway, you know, now you want to share that stuff. Something like that happens to you. You want to be able to tell somebody. The problem is that if you go to the witch next door, they don't want to believe you, or whatever it is, you know, or somebody. So you know. You want to fellowship, you pray deeper. Now the basis for your decisions, they change. You got some other idea. You've got new brothers and sisters, you know, you belong. Now in saying that, there's just that thing. I was pretty big on the bro thing, you know. That was another thing that it niggled at me. I got no problem with people calling each other brothers, and certainly not in the context of the church, you know. But the fact is, the only way you can be my brother or my sister, right, is if we have the same parents, right? So that can be earthly, you know, earthly bloodline type thing, or we can have the same father up in heaven. Now he can be my brother, right? Unless that happens. But I'm sorry, I can't call you brother. I can respect you and I can love you. But, you know, if you've got carpet burns on your knees and your forehead, I'm sorry, you can't be my brother. But you can be. I can respect you and love you and try to talk to you so you want to become my brother. I can be your brother then. Okay, so I sort of got, instead of bro everybody, that's something that's just gone a little bit from my language. So it changes the way you sort of deal with people, and so on. Well, I'm not saying that it's wrong to call people brothers. If you want to, that's okay. It's just a conviction that I had, all right? Whatever it is that is happening is that you're equipped for your journey now. You have a journey that you're going to go through. You're equipped by the grace of God. The grace of God is that, as a matter of fact. Okay? It's the provision by the Lord Himself in the life of a believer for what they're going to do according to His purpose. Yes? So, you're being equipped, and at the beginning, there is kind of a honeymoon. Oh man, this is just so beautiful. Like the first time it happens, exactly like I said, you read the Bible and you have this big thing, and then you pray and something happened maybe, or things just suddenly get sorted out in your life, and it seems to become, it just happens. It's very nice. But the fact is, at one point or another, you're going to get onto another level, and that's probably where we get to the suffering for a little while, where things are just necessarily just that easy. Well, I got news for you, that happened to everyone. Don't bang yourself up if all of a sudden you feel your faith hasn't changed. But hey, I'm going through trials here. This is just not right, it's not happening, it's not easy anymore. Well, that's just simply because, well, you've gone to the stage where you can start to eat meat, right? You got milk for a while, now you can eat meat. You're onto, at least you're onto solids, okay? So that's sort of the next step. It's a little bit like, you've signed up for the police, okay? You're enrolled, you got given your uniform, you got your gun, you've got your badge, you're all confirmed. It's wonderful. Okay, you're there. So what's going to happen next is that you're going to get some basic training, so they tell you how to use that stuff, right? And then eventually when you finish that, well, you're going to have to take a direction according to your qualities, according to your gifts, okay? You're going to decide what you want to do. Are you going to walk the beat? Are you going to be a street preacher? Okay, are you going to become a detective, like a scholar, and just look for those things in the Word? Are you getting to be tactical response group, right? You're going to be an evangelist. You're going to be the first one out there to get them, you know, sort of thing. Are you going to train recruits, become a teacher? Are you going to take on rank and lead, become a pastor? All of those things, and you can be all of that, just probably not all at the same time, that's all. And it doesn't matter if you're ever only one. It's just whatever God has given you to do, okay? So you may still be confirmed, have your badge, but you have to do something with it, because otherwise it's just kind of going to stay there, and it's going to be good pretty much for nothing. You might even forget you have it and discard it. Who knows? Okay? Because like a few others here, I don't believe in the once saved, always saved thing. Okay? Ask yourself this though. How long have you had your badge and what have you done with it? If somehow the answer bothers you, then, you know, talk to your pastor, an elder, your peers or whatever. Maybe there is just something there. That's just waiting for you. Okay? So anyway, there's that bit. And then there is the strengthened part. I love the strengthened part. That's good. I love strength. Okay? But basically, it doesn't matter how good a recruit you are. You're going to be tempted or tested, yes. If you watch cop movies or just whatnot, you're going to get hurt. At one point or another, something's going to happen. The trials and the tests. I already talked a little bit about it. That's the suffered for a while. And one thing that you learn very quickly is that you won't be able to save the world alone. It doesn't matter how big your badge is or how big your gun is, okay? You can't do that. It doesn't work that way. You know, have you noticed? Have you ever noticed how the world is trying to tell us differently? How every movie you watch, oh, it's the rogue that gets it. It's the one that doesn't obey the orders. It's the one that just breaks the rules. It's Maverick. It's Top Gun. It's the, you know, it's the whatever. That's the one that just saves the world all the time. And if possible, is 16 years old and doesn't have to obey anything because he knows or she knows better. And that's the heroes today. But it doesn't work that way. Okay? That's a complete lie. All right? Right? You strengthen first, right, by the fact that there is great authority behind you. It's not the badge that stops the car. The car can just flatten you. It's the authority behind the badge that stops the car. Because they know that if the driver of the car just knows that unless he or she stops, there's going to be hell to pay. And I choose my words. Okay? So that's actually where the strength comes from. You're strong because you belong to the force, because you belong to a body. You got your buddies there. That's got to do. You're now a member of the body, right? You and all its members do their job according to the head of the body, right? And that would be the one and only Jesus Christ. Okay, so that's where the strength comes from. And everything that you're going to do is going to be done by the rules. Because, and I'm not talking here by the law as such, you know, going back to the old law, but I'm saying by the rules. God can't bless what is obtained by deception. He can't do that. You want to see how my resume changed. Because if he's going to help me, well, I can't get that job just because I lied through my teeth all the way through. Goodness me, you know. You know how you can well, actually, the world today just pushes you to do those things. You have to embellish stuff that you've done in order to get the job, and everybody knows that you lie through your teeth, but it looks good, so you get it. Well, I'm sorry, I don't want no part of that. Right, and that's my excuse for not. That's my excuse for not going up in grade now. It's not because I'm dumb or anything. No, but yeah, there is things like this. You're learning from others throughout the whole thing. You're gaining experience, and you are going to make mistakes. We all do. We all get hurt. We can't get it right the same day. The thing is to accept those mistakes. It's just to confess our sin. Okay? It's just to get to that stuff. Anyway, you know, you get back up in the saddle. You get fitter, you get stronger, you get more discerning, and you're back on your way. But there's always got to be a but, isn't that a pain? Because you're there and you seem to be doing so well, and you've got that now, and you're on and you're going through and you're strong and you understand that stuff now. And then you read this. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 12, 9-10, "But the Lord said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ then, I am content without weaknesses, insults, hardship, persecution and calamities. For when I'm weak, then I'm strong.
Amen.
So suddenly it's not about biceps or degrees. Okay? And God might send us places we're absolutely not comfortable to go, but He will be our strength. Another thing, without going on there, because that's a whole sermon again in itself, but without going there, it's just when we start to feel strong, when we have that strength, when we have the wind in our sails, that everything seems to be okay, this is actually when we are very, very vulnerable. You know, God is going to be there protecting you. But if all of a sudden vanity starts to come into it, if you just want that little more, if you start to do things in your own strength and you think, haha, that's it, I've got it, that's when the enemy can just come right in and say, ha, I got you. Yep. Bam! You know, and this is how you find a godly man who had a wonderful, wonderful life, all of a sudden just, I don't know, bringing the Pachamama in the church, you know, or something like that. They're just terrible things to happen, and that's one thing that we just have to keep in mind. But anyway, we need to remember then that He is the source of our strength. After He Himself restore, confirm, strengthen, you know, and establish you. All right, established, right? So there'll come a time really, as a cop now, where you've been in the force for a long time and you got that respect, you got that experience, you know how to use your badge, and there is just something about you. People respect you. You're an experienced, trustworthy and reliable cop, and whatever is your rank or department or specialty or whatever, you stand out. But you know what? You don't stand out because you got medals. You don't stand out because you locked up so many people or just whatever. You actually stand out because of the way you treat people. Because of the way you understand your duties and your responsibilities. Because of the way you handle your duties from the humblest to the most glamorous. And by the way you basically treat all people, other cops, other civilians, other criminals. Yes, and you got the wisdom to understand that the only reason why you're in the business is because of the criminals. Okay? Ideally, you don't just catch them. You change them. Okay? Now, of course, in real life, it's one thing. But it's still our job to just go out there and catch those who haven't had the grace, who haven't had that turn in their life to give their life to the Lord, so that they too can just go on the same journey that you are. Okay, you matured, you belong, and there is just something about you. And oddly enough, people are going to hate you for it. Well, not all of them, but some will be. There is just that thing that just comes out of you. Okay, you have your place within your faith. You still be tested in big and small way. You're in the world, but you belong in the kingdom of God. You're a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. You're headed for the city that was built without hand. Okay. As a cop now, you got the best of all retirement plans, I tell you. Okay. Because in Ephesians 2:6-7, it says, He seated us in heaven with Him. Well, obviously that's not it. I don't feel seated in heaven with Him. But the thing is this. You have a look at the word. He seated us with Him. It's done. It was done a long time ago. Amen. We're sitting in heaven. Like, I know, not there in the natural, but basically that's a guarantee you got. Best retirement plan ever. Just enjoy life. Okay? I'm not describing some sort of guru state of bliss, right? You're not supposed to shave your head or try to levitate to impress people. But people know that they're in the presence of someone because something flows out of you like a river. All right? There is just that thing. John 7:38. Everyone who trusts in me, just as the scriptures have said, rivers of living water shall flow from within him. So it's about how you speak. It's about how you behave. It's about how you handle situations now. And I've used the example of a cop, okay? I could use the example of a mum and dad. Right? Nothing has to be glamorous or special or whatever. It can be what everybody does. And everything is special in its own way. But it's really about the way you love. It's really about the way you love. And make no mistake, there is a place for tough love. And that's not easy to dish out sometimes. Okay, so the Spirit sometimes oozes out from you, other times it gushes out. But no matter what God has you doing, He will establish you in the body. The thing is, you have to do it. That's the part where you're involved. You have to do it. Do is the key word. Grace is active. All right. Now basically, that's the end for the 4 words. And I do hope it helps you figure out what's basically happening to you, or it helps you explain to someone you're discipling what's going on. Okay? See, the thing is, the big thing at the moment you're born again is that it's all darkness inside here. Right? And all of a sudden, bam, the light is switched on. Okay, so it's a little bit like you wake up in the morning and somebody just opens the curtain and you go like, whoa, bright light. You know, at first there's that, but then you start to see things around now. Everything is just right there. There were things that were hidden in a corner that you can't see. When the light comes on, it can get quite confronting. It really can be, because you can see all the dirt and all the rubbish in there now. All right, got to deal with that. You got to deal with that. That's called conviction. The Holy Spirit's going to do His job with you in that way. Okay, and when the light is on, you can actually things that you didn't even know were there. So there is no end to it. That's what I was explaining to you. It just continues. That process continues. Don't be until the day we die. It's going to keep happening. After that, the Lord will do it. Okay. Now, also, there are some things that you're going to come to understand, and there are some things that will remain a mystery, even though you can still see them. That's just the way it is. You can't explain everything. Now, those who are still in darkness, they can't see that for themselves. They have no idea. We've got to help them turn on the light. Okay? If they, and basically when you're in that state, they rely on what they're told in order to get where they need to be. The problem is this world is leading them straight to the hole they're trying to avoid. Okay? So once we were like that, once we're lost, but now found, yeah? And that's why we don't fit anymore. That's what it is. And our job is to find the lost ones and connect them to the grid so that they can have their lights turned on. Okay? So, yeah. What all this is, it's meant to encourage you to go deeper in understanding your journey, enjoy a closer relationship to Jesus, with Jesus, and really be able to explain around you what's going on with this. You know, like it or not, we live in an exciting time. The world is changing rapidly, and it's just really, really good to know that it's the world that's going nuts, not you. Okay? It really is good to know there. So stay anchored in the truth, in the only truth, the one that you know personally, that you have encountered, that you know, and that's the Word of God. God bless you.